Welcome to the My Creative Days podcast, where we will talk about all things DIY, home decor, decorating tips, and creating a beautiful home on a budget. I am hoping our time together will spark a creative idea, help you plan your next DIY, or inspire you to finally tackle that project you keep putting off. Grab your favorite cup of motivation and let's chat. Hello and welcome back to the podcast. I'm doing this series on flipping houses pretty much from start to finish. So I wanted to kind of break it up into bite-sized nuggets because I get a lot of questions about flipping houses. And over the years, I've shared all of the ones that we have done. And so just, putting the questions together and then trying to put this into, like I said, just shorter episodes so that they're easy to digest and kind of break it up because this could be months of talking about it, but I just thought I would touch on the main topics, the main questions I get in this little series. And so if you missed the last two, like I said, this is episode 3. The last one we talked about how to find the right property. And the one before that, we were talking about if flipping is even for you, because I'm going to be completely honest, it is not for everybody. It is not for everybody. I have a lot of personal friends and family that I have sat down with to talk about, the different things. And I kind of go through what I share with them in that podcast. So make sure you go back and listen to those in the series if you're interested in those. And as always, please share this podcast with anybody you know that's thinking about it, would like to learn more about it, just starting out, just has questions. Please share this. It just helps me to get the information out there. And I truly appreciate it when you share the podcast. So let's dive into it. Today, we're going to be talking about how to estimate repairs and make the offer that makes sense. So this I kind of put together here because I get a lot of questions in this kind of realm, and it's hard to, there's so much that goes into it. So every episode that I'm doing in this series, I always think, but I could do this and I could say this. So if there's anything that you want me to touch on more or elaborate on, please, you're going to have to reach out to me because I don't know if I don't hear from you. So like I said, I'm just trying to get the questions that I get asked most answered and trying to put them together in, like I said, this could take months of a conversation. I'm trying to fit this all into one podcast. So please do not be shy and please reach out to me. I will never share your information, but it just lets me know what I need to, dive more into or what other, topics and questions you have about this. So number one, before you start estimating, your costs and repairs and all of that, you have to know your exit strategy. So before you even pick up a calculator or whatever, when you are going through a house or maybe you don't even have a house to go through yet, but you're just thinking about flipping, you have to know, are you going to be flipping to sell immediately? So you're going to buy it, make it over and sell it. Are you going to hold on to it and rent it out? Or maybe are you going to be living in it while you renovate and then sell it? Like, what does your exit strategy look like? And we have done the first 2. So we've done the first 3, but we, in this house now, we definitely lived through it while we flipped it. We bought it from the original owners and everything needed to be touched. It was in great condition. It was just, it was just outdated. But we weren't selling it or anything. We were living in it. So you definitely want to know, are you flipping to sell immediately? We have done that. Are you holding on to it and renting it out? We have also done that. So these are going to change your numbers and how much you spend. So you literally cannot start going through this until you know that answer. So you have to know that before walking through a house. You also have to know, so you found a house, let's just say, you also have to know what the resale ceiling is in that neighborhood. So that means, what is the top that you're really going to get in that neighborhood? And people will say things like, well, but it could go up. Not dramatically. Like, where the house is in the neighborhood where it's going to be. There is a ceiling that is not going to, really get much higher than what it is, if that makes sense. Because that neighborhood, like, there's just, there's no new builds going in. There's no, you know what I'm saying? Like, if it's already established, there is kind of a ceiling, right? So if the nicest home nearby sells for $300,000, it's not going to make sense to dump $100,000 or $150,000 into a house, and pay, let's say you're going to pay $200 for it. You'll never get that money back, right? So you do have to know what the resale ceiling is. And that is, you have to know that if you're selling to, or flipping to sell or flipping to rent. Because at some point, you will want to sell that house, even if you're hanging on to it. So like the two that we just got done, we are hanging on to them. We are renting them out. But when we went into flip, we had to make them both over. We did things that I didn't want to have to come in and do again. And they had to be done to get good tenants in there. But I also knew, okay, at the end of this house is definitely worth this. This is kind of the top of it. So we're not going to spend so much on it. You want to look at comparable homes, around where you are looking at this house. Same bed bath count, similar square footage, similar location, those kinds of things, right? Because that's going to give you a good after repair value, which is what the number everything else is based on. So it's kind of like you work backwards, if that makes sense. Okay, the first one we recently just got, so we got 3 in 1 year. So the first one we got, I knew in the end that house was going to be worth X amount of money, right? That's the most we could get out of it. And so that's where I start. And then when I start working backwards. Okay, the house had no flooring in it. We wanted to drywall the basement and make it more like, a livable, good, basement family room kind of area. The bathroom needed updated. We needed new countertops. Like you start, first of all, you're going to, know exactly what that ceiling is. And then you decide, okay, am I flipping to sell, flipping to rent? Okay, now what do I have to do for that scenario? So there are certain things, if you are renting it out, that you're going to look past or you're not going to fix right now because it's good enough for a good renter to be in there. But if I'm flipping to sell, like maybe you have outdated, just countertops, but they're in good condition. They're not broke. They're not anything, but they're not like the prettiest, right? Like they're not the best. Well, it'd be great. It's fine for a good renter to be in there, right? If you're going to go sell it and want top dollar, you might change out those countertops. Like you definitely have to know the difference between what's good enough to get a good renter in there. And when I say a good renter, now there are people that will rent to anything, everything, they don't care. That's not Matt and I. We are not going to do that. We want people in our houses that care about where they live, okay? And so we are going to set that bar and set that standard high when they just come to look at it. And they're going to see all the stuff that we've done to it. And there is a way to do that without spending cajillions of dollars. I'm kind of going off on a side tangent, but I need to say this. In one of these houses, I can't remember which one it was. I was looking at countertops and I was just looking at, I call them laminate countertops, but just no stone or anything. I was looking at laminate countertops and I was sharing it on, I don't know, TikTok or Instagram or whatever. And somebody said, are we still shopping for laminate countertops? Yes. Yes, we are. All of the things that you think are so uncool or you think are so like outdated, they have come such a far way. That goes from LVP flooring to vinyl flooring, like the rollout vinyl flooring, to countertops, to laminate countertops. They have come such a far way. And when people ask me questions like that, they don't bother me at all, but I just know they're coming from a place that they're not educated in what we're doing and what this looks like. When somebody leaves me a comment like that, it's like, yeah, we are still looking for that because I know that ceiling of where this house is and I know I can't go over it, but I know I can get an amazing looking countertop for a lot less. And it's just going to update the space for what this house needs in the neighborhood it's in, blah, blah, blah. So those are just some things that you have to think about. Sorry about my side tangent. That always happens. But so what you're going to do now is when you walk the property, you're going to walk it like a detective. If you really don't know what to look for, I would definitely, all of our houses we have bought as is, And so that means we're not getting an inspection. None of that. Meaning the sale of the house is not going to be, oh, we're going to get an inspection. And then if we don't like it, we're backing out. No, you're buying it as is to buy it as is. If you are somebody that does not know what to look for in a house, I would definitely recommend to you paying for an inspection. That's just going to be a cost that you're going to have to eat just so they can go through some of those, those things that you need to be looking for that might not, it's not just the paint on the walls and the flooring. Forever, we had my dad walking through our houses when we were going to buy them. He was an amazing resource. His health, if you're just listening, he is now in a nursing home, worst thing of my life. But so he can't do that anymore. But he was such a nice resource. Maybe you have somebody like that, a cousin, an uncle, a friend that does construction or does houses or something, is knowledgeable in those things that you really want to be looked at. Have them walk through the house with you. And not saying that everybody's buying houses that are as is, but usually for us and what we're doing, an as is situation is going to come up more than not. Okay, so just remember that. So when you tour a potential flip, you need to go through it like an inspector, not a decorator. You are going through that house like an inspector, not a decorator. Let me say that one more time for the people in the back. You are going to go through this house like an inspector, not a decorator. Okay, remember that. Flipping is not about decorating. Flipping is not about decorating. They are two totally different things. And I think HGTV and all those shows have it flipped. Everybody thinks, I want to go in and decorate a house and add wallpaper and add pretty shelves and add, I want to stage it. And no, it is really like that is 10% of it. That is 10% of flipping. And I want to get it out there that it is not like that. So as you are going through the house, and we've learned this through doing this many years, take notes and photos of everything, because you will go home. Matt and I will go through the same house, even when my dad was going through them with us. So every time what we did is when we would go through a potential flip, we would write notes. And then, initially I wasn't taking photos. And then all three of us, one thing we did do is we would sit down immediately after. So we would sit down at the table and we'd say, okay, let's start in the bathroom. What are we doing? And so then I would just take notes and write down, okay, needs this, doesn't need this. And we would put a price next to it. 9.9 times out of 10, we would be like, hey, do you remember what the tub looked like? And all three of us would sit there and be like, no clue. Like my dad would be looking at this, Matt would be looking at this, and I'd be looking at something else. You know what I mean? And so take photos of everything. And even sometimes it was like, hey, if we got a new vanity in there, remember that floor vent? Do you think there's enough room between and then it was just like little pictures of that. So when I say take pictures of everything, take pictures of everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of that. You're looking for some of the major things. You're looking for water stains, cracks, those kinds of things on ceilings, walls. That could mean a roof or a plumbing issue. Uneven floors or cracks. That could be a foundation. And when I say uneven floors, Matt and I have been through, there is kind of like a date range we look for in houses. Like we really don't want to be under 1950. We have bought one that did not have a basement that I think was a little bit earlier than that. Maybe it was the 50s. Anyway, but we have been in so many homes where we literally, Matt will walk through the whole house, kind of talk about it. And take your time. If you feel rushed, you need to have whoever's showing it to you, you need to let them know, listen, we're going to take an hour or so, depending on the size of the house, obviously. Like if you want to sit down, go sit in your car. If you want to, we are going to walk this, like it's our full-time job here. And so Matt and I will literally in some of the houses walk baby step by baby step through, let's just say a living room or the kitchen or whatever. And we have found so many issues that you didn't see with your eye just by your foot. And it'll be like different flooring. You'll be like, oh my gosh, this is totally sagging in. If I jump too hard, I'm going through this floor. Or more foundation issues where it's like, hey, I just went up a hill in the living room and I'm coming back down. Those kinds of things. So, those are things you need to look for. Outdated electrical panels. We always check the electrical. When my dad would walk houses with us, it's like, Dad, before we'd go, You know what you're supposed to for sure be looking at. The electrical panel and the HVAC, the water tank, the water heater, like those kinds of things, right? We need to know those things for sure. Are they outdated? So those are big ones because those are the ones, don't worry about the paint, the flooring, even the countertops. They're going to add to your budget, obviously, but those other things are so much bigger and going to be so much more expensive. Those are the really important things. Rusted plumbing or leaky fixtures, signs of moisture or mold in the basements or crawl space, smell, use your nose. You usually can smell that, right? And so that's something you have to be really aware of when you're going through them. And this is, I kind of already said this, but this is where you need to, if you're taking good notes and you're taking good photos, you can do this when you go home and like sit down and go through a budget. But you need to separate what is cosmetic repairs, like I said, paint, flooring, fixtures, landscaping. Those are all things you can do yourself, right? Or is it big ticket repairs, roof, windows, HVAC, electrical, plumbing, those kinds of things, right? And if you're not sure, maybe you're like, I think this is a good one. Then you get to the point where it's like, okay, I need to bring in an inspector. Maybe it's a contractor friend that you have that maybe you could pay him something to come through and look before you make an offer. I'm telling you, having an inspector come through, I don't know, is it $300, $400, whatever it is, just know that you are investing if this doesn't work out, if the inspector comes through and he's like, oh my gosh, don't get this house, it's like so bad. You just invested $300 to $400 into you learning about what you have to look at. And I would go with the inspector because it's just going to teach you so much. When my dad would go through, we learned so much, and we are now doing this on our own. So go through it with him. And then you tell him, I want you to show me what you are, what you're looking for. Show me what I need to be looking for when we go through these houses. If you've got an amazing inspector, if you've got a friend that knows the stuff, they would be happy to do that. And you just invested $300 to $400 into your knowledge, so you're not having to pay it down the road, if you get really good at it. And it's going to save you hundreds of thousands and a potential money flip. So it's not a big cost. I'm taking a quick break from the episode to share some exciting news with you. If you have ever wanted to flip furniture for extra cash, a creative outlet, or to build a business but didn't know where to start, there's never been a better time. My Furniture Flipping Academy is now just $79, which is over $200 off the original price. Inside, you'll learn how to find amazing pieces on a budget or for free, how to transform them step by step, sanding, painting, staging, all the things, how to price and sell for real profit, and even know how to work with brands to grow your flipping business in more ways than you know. And that's just the start. There is so much more waiting for you inside the Academy. We have so much packed inside the Academy. It's completely self-paced. Once you buy it, it's yours for life. There are no deadlines. There's no pressure. We do have a sneak peek inside the link in the show notes. It will give you a glimpse inside the Academy. And here's the truth. Nothing changes unless you do. You can keep waiting for the right time, or you can take this step now. At $79, the price isn't holding you back anymore. So stop hesitating. Stop making excuses. Click the link and get started today. Okay, so build your repair cost estimate. So this is what we do. We do this right after we go through a house because you will forget things. So we go to a coffee shop, go have lunch, go whatever, spread out, and go to the dining room table. Once you know you've got your photos and your list there, you're gonna start attaching numbers to everything, right? You can build a simple cost sheet, like a cheat sheet for your area, and these ranges are going to be so broad. So do not go by these, but you can maybe Google it and it would be able to tell you, but like a roof, $8,000 to $12,000. Again, I maybe shouldn't say all this here, but because it could be so much more if you've got a garage and you've got, a bigger house and all of that. But a kitchen remodel, bathroom remodel, a kitchen remodel, $10,000 to $20,000. Again, depending on what you're choosing, depending on, are you doing it yourself? You're hiring it out. A bathroom remodel, $5,000 to $10,000. Again, how big is the bathroom? Paint, how much is it per square foot? Flooring, same thing. What kind of flooring are you going to go with? Are you going to do it yourself or are you going to hire it out? HVAC replacement, 7 to 10,000 roughly. Windows, we just had all new windows put in the one house that we just finished, and that was 16 windows. And so just know that right there is a big chunk of change out of a budget. So you just need to, and I always pad everything. I estimate like 10 to 15% for surprises because you will have them. You will definitely have them. Even if you're replacing all the windows yourself, we've done many window replacements. Side shout out, we worked with Window World on this last house. If you need new windows or if you need a flip that needs new windows, reach out to your local Window World team. Amazing, amazing company to work with. But, it's like, I was just thinking of windows. We have done our own, replacement windows. We did them on the house we're living in now. And you may, like a surprise that could come up is as you're removing a window, maybe the wood around it has rotted or something, if you've got really old windows. So then that would add to the cost of just a replacement window, right? Because you need to take out the wood, put new wood in, those kinds of things. So you always want to pad your budget. There will always be something you didn't plan for. One of the last houses we just did, we were redoing, like I said, the house had no flooring in it. So we were redoing all the floor and we got to where their brand new fridge was. So we pulled the fridge out and we're like, this feels a little soft. And we actually had to rebuild that floor there, the subfloor there. Like we took it all the way out so you could see the basement, if that makes sense. So we were not planning on that at all, but that was an extra cost. It could be a small cost and it can be a big cost, but you always want to pad your budget. And then my goal is to always come way underneath whatever budget that we have set for the property, right? And some people will say if you plan to DIY projects, factor in your own time, tools, and materials. We don't necessarily do that. Obviously, we factor in materials and tools. Like if there's a certain tool we need to get or we have to go rent something. Like we were thinking about putting in a privacy fence on this last one that we did, and we were going to go rent an auger, right? Is that what they're called? To dig the holes. So, right, that would be a cost that you would want to factor into it. And obviously the materials for the fence, right? So you're definitely going to plan for the tools and materials you may have to get, but we do not necessarily factor in our time, like paying ourselves for our time. Here's the thing. We know when we get a flip house, if we're flipping to rent, flipping to sell, it's going to be our life for 3 to 4 months. Like this will be our life, nights and weekends, right? We're both still working full time. So this will be our life. That for free 3 to 4 months in what you get in return, we're getting paid for our work, if that makes sense. So just know that we don't sit and factor in, okay, I'm going to put in the fence and that's going to take me a full weekend. So no, we don't do that. We don't do that, but we do know, and I kind of talked about this, it is your life unless you're going to be that person that's like, oh, I don't care about carrying costs and I don't care about, whatever. Every month, every week that you hold a house to flip or rent, whatever, and it's not done, so you're not renting it out or you're not selling it yet, it costs you money. And that money comes out of your quote unquote profit in the end. So we are not the ones that are going to take, and that's just us in general. Like if we have a project, it's going to get done. And so these flip houses, obviously they're bigger projects. We're going to get them done. And so the only thing that can trip you up with that timeline is if you're waiting for, like this last one, all custom windows that were being ordered. And then the custom kitchen that we did put in. All of that was custom, obviously, to fit the space, to fit the windows. So that took some time. So just remember that. Okay, so finding your ARV which is basically your after repair value. Once you know what it'll cost to fix up the property, are you fixing it up to rent? Are you fixing it up to sell? You need to know what it'll be worth when you're done, right? So to calculate the ARV, what you're going to do is you're going to look at recent sales, and that's within the 3 to 6 months and in the same neighborhood. Sometimes, with that time frame, you may have to go up to a year and you may have to expand the search a little bit more, like beyond the neighborhood, but yet you're still within the neighborhood. Does that make sense? Just make sure your parameters are the same, right? You don't want to be, you're flipping in one neighborhood and then you're looking across town at some other neighborhood. It's apples to oranges. Don't do that. You want to, again, choose the homes that are similar in size, bed, bath count, style. Do they have a garage? Do they have a 1-stall garage, a 2-stall garage? Do they have a yard? Do they not have a yard? All those kinds of things you need to take into account. And focus on those that are already renovated, right? Because that's what your finished flip is going to compete with. So you don't want to find another one that needs work and needs to be done. And the last one we just did, we have another one that we have mentioned to the owners that we are very interested in buying. And it's going to be kind of the same thing that we just finished, meaning we would be buying it in the same condition, pretty original to when it was built. And so it's kind of amazing because we are going to have our comp and what we paid for it as it was to then take to them and say, this is what it was. This is what you have, which I think the house we just did has a better layout than theirs. But we're going to have that amazing comp when it comes time to them selling, and hopefully they call us. But we're going to have that comp and just to show them this is exactly how we bought it. And they kind of know too. They know the house, which is really, really good. So, and try to get 3 solid comps to get your average ARV if you can. 3 solid comps, right? And if you're unsure, you can ask a real estate agent who knows the area. Many are happy to run comps if they know you're a serious investor, right? Because you may down the road, if you want to continue doing this, you will want to have a realtor on your side. You will just want to have somebody that you can ask. And then, maybe it comes a time when you're wanting to sell them and you want to use a realtor, and that's who you'll definitely use. And so I know if I was a realtor, it's like, let me help you now, because hopefully you're going to come back to me when it's time to sell, list. Maybe you find one that you want to buy. I would be happy to reach out to them for you, to buy. So, and maybe you have a friend that's just a realtor that could help you run the numbers. So next, here is a basic formula that some flippers use to figure out what they can offer to pay. So the ARV times 70%, so 0.70 minus the repairs equals the max offer price. So that 30% gap is supposed to cover your profit, closing costs, holding costs, anything unexpected, all those things, right? So let's say your ARV is $300,000 and the repairs are $50,000. You would do $300,000 times 0.7, which is $210,000. $210,000 minus $50,000, your repairs, that's $160,000. So your max offer should be $160,000. Your max offer, not the offer where you start, your max offer should be $160,000. So what does that tell you? Your offer, you need to start way under that. Way under that. And I don't necessarily go by this kind of calculation, but I thought it would be a good one to kind of get your thoughts and kind of get you understanding how this works a little bit. In hotter markets, which we were bone dry for 5 years. We couldn't find a house at all. You may need to adjust it to 75%, but always give yourself room. It's better to lose a deal than lose money on one. Again, I have to say this again for the people in the back. It's better to lose a deal than lose money on one. And I shared this, I think it was in the last podcast. We have been as close as $2,000, $2,500 on a deal and walked away because they wouldn't meet us at that price. It hurts, but it's getting easier now. It's like if they don't want to come to the price, then it's not a fit for us. And $2,500, you may be like, oh, I would have done it. That's great, but it was just no. And Matt is the person that would have done it. Oh yeah, we'll just do it. And then after I go through the numbers again and I kind of talk to him, and he's like, you're right. Why? I'm just, don't get desperate. This is a big investment. This is a huge investment, and you want to be smart about it. Keep your emotions out of it. This is business. It's not personal. Like I wanted to say, I don't necessarily always go by that 70% rule. To be completely honest, I'm way under that. Like if it says your max, we always do have a max offer, right? We're always like, okay, we can go up to this, but I'm going to start well under that, right? And if they tell me they're crazy, that's when my negotiation starts coming in, right? So that's when you start negotiating. I'm buying it as is. You're not going to have an inspector come in here and tell you everything that's wrong and how much it's going to cost. Because now, if you have an inspector come in and tell me everything my number's going to be even less, right? So I'm buying it as is. I'm making a cash offer. We can close in 30 days, however long it takes the closing company to do it. Like, all of the things that you can bring to the table that you can negotiate with, that is like, listen, you want to sell this house? It needs a lot of work. Like, do you want to go ahead and put that's another thing that I have used before too. Like, these people want to sell the house and they do not want to put another dime into it. And I get it. Okay. So I'm willing to take it off your hands and I'm going to put the dimes into it. I'm going to do all the work and put all the money into it, right? You can just walk away and you're making a profit. Another thing I like to use is I don't care how long ago they paid for it or they bought it. I look to see what they bought it for. And I know what condition it's in right now. So I know it's not like you put a bunch of updates in it and a bunch of money into it. You didn't. So you got it for this. So you are walking away with a profit. And if you've rented it for so many years, whatever, you are definitely walking away with a profit. Like, you have made 10 times your money, on this house. So you can't use that, depending on the house, right? And depending on who you're working with, because that hasn't worked for all of our houses. But so that's not an argument you can use, because you can just go back to them with that. So there's a lot of negotiation that you can use depending on what your situation is, that can go into putting that number way below what your max offer should be. I don't know if I said this. Do not start your offer at your max price. Do not start your offer at your max price. And I'm going to be completely honest. Matt probably would. And he does none of the negotiation. He does none of that. He does not want to have any part of that. So I am in charge of all of that. But Matt would be the one to, I remember when we were buying this house, it was from somebody that my dad was doing work on this house on their deck. They said they were going to sell it. And my dad's like, wait, my daughter and her husband might be interested, blah, blah, blah. And so my dad negotiated this one for us. And so again, I learned a lot through my dad from this, but we got to where we were really close and Matt was just going to pay the higher price. Like, okay, just give him that. And my dad's like, I think we can get it. We can do this. We can get it a lot lower than that. So, we did. So we would always joke about that. Even with cars and stuff, Matt would be like, okay, let's just do it. And it's like, no, Matt, if we don't look out for our money, if we don't stand up for ourselves, nobody else is gonna. They're just here to make more money. We've got to stand strong. So definitely do not go in with your max offer. Do not do that. Do not do that. So you need some room to work, if that makes sense. Number 5, and I've kind of said this before, don't fall in love with the house. This is where so many first-time flippers make mistakes. And again, you have to remember this is business. It's not personal. You aren't moving into this. You are flipping to sell or flipping to rent. And like I said, we've gotten so close to so many that have had so much potential, and it's like $2,500 and we walk away. Don't fall in love with the house, the potential, the neighborhood. And then you start like fudging with your numbers a little bit, just a little bit. And that's Matt. Okay, $2,500. That's not bad. Like, we could not do, it's like, no, you have to put your business hat on. If the deal doesn't work on paper, it doesn't work in real life. If the deal does not work out on paper, it does not work in real life. And you want to go into this happy and excited about what you just bought. Like, you've got a good deal. You've got one that's got great potential. You just got to bring it out. And now, once it is one of my favorite parts about it. Now that I've got it, I've got the keys, I'm walking through it as owners of it. And now it's like, okay, we put whatever, $20,000, is our budget for this. I better do this house in $15,000. Like, that is I love that part of it. Because I'm going to push myself. I'm going to shop for things. I'm going to find deals. I'm going to find ways to make it look great, but on a budget. You know what I mean? Like, it's just one of my favorite things. And so you want to be proud of that. You don't want to be stressed the first time you're opening the door and walking through it because you paid too much, right? Let the math guide you, not your emotions. I'm telling you, you will be so happy when you're signing for the profits later You're signing for the check later, you're selling it later, maybe you're renting it out for a while and then you're going to sell it. You need to let the math, the numbers, your budget guide you, not your emotions. So here's a couple of mistakes to avoid. Permits or inspections. That can delay everything. And every state is going to be different with these, right? Every state, every city. Not including holding costs. And I kind of talked about this. So if you're getting a mortgage on it, right, that is a monthly cost. Taxes, you have to pay taxes every year. When we just got 3 in 1 year, it came, you pay taxes twice a year. Once, and if you're getting a mortgage, you will have the taxes are in the mortgage, but you pay them twice a year. You can pay them once a year, but that tax time, you have to know that all of those are, depending on how many you have, or if you're holding them, you may not be. You may sell it before the taxes are due again, and we've done that on lots of our flips as well. But that is part of your holding cost. The insurance, you have to have insurance. The day that you get the keys, you have to have insurance on the property. That is a holding cost. Utilities, while you own it, before you have a renter in it. Those are all holding costs. Those are things that people underestimate. Like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think I'm going to have to pay. Well, you're going to have to pay a mortgage if you get a mortgage on it. But taxes, utilities, insurance, those are all holding costs. So start calling your insurance agent. Ask them what that looks like. For us, it always changes when for the ones that we are flipping to rent, we get it insured while we're working on it and it's vacant. That looks a little different. Then we call one of the renters going to be in there. Okay, now we have a renter in there starting November 1st. And so it changes a little bit and the policy changes. So call your insurance agent and just see what that looks like just before you maybe even get into one. Labor costs. I need to add material costs too, because you just never know. Paint used to be so much cheaper. Wood used to be so much cheaper. Labor costs are going to vary completely. And so that's why I always recommend you need to get a few estimates on jobs that you are hiring out. Get a few estimates because they can really vary greatly. And the last thing, this is another one that mistakes they make, overestimating the resale price. Just be completely honest with yourself. Again, you don't want to get into something that's not worth it in the end. So here's a quick numbers recap. Before you make any offer, you need to know the estimated repair cost. Make sure that they are detailed and realistic. Make sure you're taking photos and you're taking good notes as you're going through the house. Maybe even take a video of a walkthrough. You can do the total walkthrough with whoever you're having go through, take notes, chit chat, and then say, hey, give me another 15 minutes. I'm just going to walk this house and do a full video. So then you have it with you when you're going over the numbers. The ARV, make sure you know what it can sell for when it is all fixed up and done. Remember the 70% rule formula. That's just kind of a good formula to have in your back pocket. Just kind of a tangible thing that you can that may help you with the numbers a little bit. But you're never going to start an offer at that max offer price. And then just remember, you need to have the confidence to walk away if the math doesn't work. It may get down to $1,500. If the math doesn't work, you're walking away. Remember, it's business. It's not emotional. You are flipping for profit. You're not flipping to decorate. This is a business, okay? Flipping is not about guessing. It's about systems. Once you learn how to run the numbers, once you learn what to look for, once you start getting a good list of people around you, so it may be, plumbers, electricians, those kinds of things, you'll really understand, okay, this needs a new HVAC system. This is what it's going to cost. This needs this. This is kind of what it's going to cost. Start working with some great companies and brands that you love or that are near you, so you always go to them. We have somebody that we work with for carpet and all of that. I go to her and I let her know. So now it just comes down to a system. She knows, okay, I'm not going to try and sell anything else to her. Lindsay will know exactly what she wants, what her budget is. And so it's just kind of business. It's cut and dry. This is what it is. So stay unemotional. Just look at the profit and just make sure that you're just doing all these things and thinking of all the things. It's this. I hope this doesn't overwhelm you. These episodes, I just really want to help educate you on some of the things that I feel like people overlook or just don't even think are that important. So As always, if I need to dive in any deeper or there's, maybe a follow-up question or something to this episode, please reach out to me and let me know. And I want to make sure that I am reiterating at the end of each episode to make sure that you are following our YouTube channel. We do post the podcast on YouTube every Monday, so you can always listen to the podcast on our YouTube channel. And we might be making some changes. So I just want to make sure if you are a podcast listener and you enjoy this podcast, please make sure that you are subscribed to our YouTube channel. We will leave a link to that in the show notes. And if you ring the bell, if you click the bell when you're over there, then you will be notified when new episodes drop. I am also uploading new videos every week as well over there. If you are a podcast listener, you need to be subscribed to the YouTube channel. So make sure you check the show notes. And it's youtube.com/@mycreativedays. Everything is My Creative Days on all of the channels, so you can easily find me. But if you just are hearing this and maybe want to type it in really quick, that's where you'll find it. And just make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of these episodes if we decide to make some changes. So until next time, I hope you have a great day, and I will talk to you very soon. Hello, friends. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I'm grateful that you tune in every week and that you share the show with your family and friends. I love having creative chit chats with you, and my hope is that this podcast will inspire you to try a new project, start a DIY that you've been putting off, and decorate your home exactly how you want it. There are a few ways you can help us with the podcast. Follow the podcast so you don't miss an episode. And if you could take a few minutes to leave the podcast a review, that would help us so much. Again, thank you for being here, and I look forward to our chat next week. Bye-bye.